Good evening and welcome to the Monday night edition of the People Show with Mark Wallace and Charles Thomas right here on IntellectualRadio.com and iHeart, as well as we are streaming live on YouTube and Facebook. Our telephone number here is 708-223-8953, 708-223-8953. We'd love to hear your input to whatever it is we're going to be talking about tonight. How you doing, Charles?
Had a big weekend. Spent it at home.
Okay.
Locked down because I live, downtown, sort of in the West Loop area. And man, you would not believe the crowds that descended on downtown on, I guess, Friday and Saturday night. In fact, the entire weekend at night, we had huge numbers of people coming into the neighborhood. It was time to lock the door, stay inside, and watch from the balcony.
What were they celebrating? So that
it was Mexican Independence Day, which I'm sure is a national holiday in Mexico. It's kind of hard to relate to it in the United States because there's an Independence Day here as well that a lot of people celebrate the 4th of July. But here in Chicago, the Mexican-American community celebrates Mexican Independence Day. It's taken to heart here. You wonder, I mean, are they Americans or Mexicans? I mean, I would think that I don't see that kind of enthusiasm on the 4th of July. Not on anybody's part, really, but very enthusiastic on Mexican Independence Day. And it's a fairly recent phenomenon, too. I mean, I've lived downtown for a long time, and it's only in the last 5, certainly at most 10 years, that we've seen this kind of celebration take hold in Chicago. And there's a lot of disorder involved in it. It's not an orderly celebration. It's not like the Columbus Day parade or any other ethnic parade. The St. Patrick's Day parade. It's not organized at all. Not downtown. Now out in Little Village, I'm sure it's organized, and there are parade sponsors and marshals and such. But downtown, it is a free for all. It is total chaos.
So, in other words, it's like a takeover.
It is. And you could say, if you wanted to compare it to that, it's larger, though.
Right.
Than a much, much larger than a takeover. Those teen takeovers usually involve, at their worst, 300 to 500 kids. This thing is tens of thousands of people descending on the Loop and downtown.
And shutting people's livelihood down for a weekend.
For sure. I mean, not that there's that much going on now in the Loop anyway, but this thing had spread to the near north side where there is, a nightlife, if you will. And the West Loop is sort of like the edge of it, because when people are coming up the Kennedy, off the Ryan, up the Kennedy or off the Stevenson, they get into that area where you have the downtown exits off the Kennedy. That is stopped. I mean, stopped cold. The cops are at the exits saying you can't come off the expressway, but they're honking the horns, the flags are waving, and it's still thousands of people in the Loop already. These are the people who couldn't get in there.
Cars from 22nd Street all the way back north as far as downtown. They had Lakeshore Drive, parts of Lakeshore Drive locked down. Parts of the Kennedy was just bedlam. There were people. I went to an event Saturday night. The Sigma Omega chapter celebrated their 100th year, their centennial year, which was a phenomenal event. Mayor Brandon Johnson was there. Jonathan Jackson was there. A lot of, this is the brothers celebrating. And I learned a lot about the founders of this chapter. Benjamin Elijah Mays
It's a
fraternity.
It's a fraternity, not one of the Divine Nine, right?
Yeah, this is the Omega Psi Phi fraternity.
Oh, Omega Psi Phi. Oh, the Qs.
Yeah, the Qs.
Okay, yeah, definitely.
Okay,
Yeah, the second oldest
yeah.
Black Greek organization. I think from certainly among the men, because Alpha Phi Alpha is the oldest. But for sure, man. Yeah, the Qs, man. Absolutely.
I mean, the founders: Benjamin W. Clayton, 1914; Carter Walker Wesley, Joseph Berry, Benjamin Elijah Mays, Miles Davis Jr., the father of Miles, of the great
Davis.
Miles Davis. So I was invited to come to this event, not knowing that that's what it was, but I was invited by my good friend, Judge Leonard Murray, who is the circuit court Cook County judge supervising over the buildings division, invited me to come to this event, not knowing really what it was because I didn't inquire until I got there and I saw all of the purple and gold.
Well, but what did that have to do with the
confusion
downtown?
Went to this event, and there were a couple of people that we helped to get home from that event, which was held out in Oak Lawn. It took them 2 hours and 15 minutes to get home from that event into the city
because of the people on the street.
What was happening.
There's a headline. I think this is which publication? This is I guess WBBM Radio. They have a news service, online news service, and there's a headline that says those celebrating Mexican Independence Day in the Loop did nothing wrong, community leader says, and it goes on again defending what went on. I think we mentioned earlier as we were speaking off camera that the mainstream news media in Chicago, they pandered to the chaos. They were acting as though this is something that we have to expect every Mexican Independence Day, to have this kind of chaos happen. Now, the Tribune I have issues with anyway, because it's a paper that seems to pander to whatever is happening, but they certainly pandered to this event. And I'm sure that people who are living in the downtown area and in other areas that were overwhelmed by this situation on Friday and Saturday nights would hope that there would be some organization brought to it. And that's not just speaking to the Mexican American community and its leadership, but to the city. They've got to bring this under control. They've got to say, hey, we're going to have a Mexican Independence Day celebration downtown. We're going to have a program, Pritzker Pavilion, whatever, and it's going to be organized.
Contained to a certain area that does not infringe on other people's ability to, enjoy their life. I think that if this had been the Black community, there would have been a total different response. If that many Black folks had converged and locked down downtown that way, because these were, thousands of cars, vehicles all around. And again, this was not something that was organized by the city. It was certainly
not organized by anybody.
They were preparing for it, but I saw police departments out there, members just sort of navigating traffic as though we're going to allow for this to happen. It's okay that you all just decide that you're going to lock down a certain part of the city for the weekend. Now, I don't have any problems with people celebrating who they are or their culture are. But I think that we all know that if this had been the Black community, that would have been a completely different response.
Well, too, it would not have been the Black community, because Black folks have what I call situational awareness. We ain't going to do that. Because these are old and young, and everybody was out there. Little kids were out there.
Mm-hmm.
No, we're not. We're not going to do that. I mean, the teen takeovers, that's one thing. But again, they're like 300 to 500 kids in a
At best.
swarm that
At
do
best.
it. But these were thousands, perhaps tens of thousands. There's one estimate that, and I don't know if they were talking about the parade earlier in the day, where 400,000 people were out to celebrate Mexican Independence Day. And the other thing too, and perhaps it goes another level. It's Mexican Independence Day. Man, America is like so fractured into so many different pieces, and you just wonder at what point is there going to be an American identity that is going to be preeminent among its people. And because right now it is fractured into so many different pieces, and I don't know if we're ever going to get back to that feeling.
The way that things look today, I can understand why it's hard to imagine it, of getting to a unified identity for America that's inclusive. I don't know. With the way that there seems to be this preferential, depending on who, depending on what, on how certain things are received, accepted, rejected. But I just, when I watched that, look, on one hand, got up Saturday morning listening to all the news, every news report talking about Mexican Independence Day, every news report, whatever channel you turn to, right? So, but they kept talking about this, make sure you get an earlier start if you have to go anywhere north. Start out early. And I had to go north, but I went very early in the morning. It wasn't bad. I can't imagine why this is allowed to, and it's growing. It's not getting smaller. It's getting larger. Last year this year it was probably as worst in terms of ever seeing it. I mean, they locked down.
Yeah, well, but Mark, right now, they Latinos, the majority of whom are Mexican American, in this city at least, they are the largest. They are a plurality of people in Chicago. And this is a natural, I think, evolution of what's been happening demographically in the city over the past 30 years. And it's not a bad thing. Not at all. It's not a bad thing. It's just that it has to be brought on. I'm sure that people in the Mexican American community don't want this kind of thing to happen to the downtown area or to any neighborhood, including their own, where you have just unbridled chaos underway, and that's got to be stopped. But I don't see. I mean, this city is becoming less and less a epicenter of Black culture and experience, and becoming more in the Mexican American. It just is, and we just have to deal with that, and deal with it in a very positive way, because it is a very positive development in terms of how the city is evolving. It's reality, and it's something. It smacks a Black person in the face, because it's like, hey, wake up, get on program.
Well, that is my. That's what my mantra is that not vilifying anybody, any other group that amasses their their numbers and somehow unifies it. I say that we have to do the same thing. We have to have our own reemergence of that within the Black community. We have to not allow for whatever these things that are bringing, and some of it is very subtle, the fractionization of Black people, that we can bring Black people together so that Black people can demonstrate and show who we really are, and make sure that we are not just taken for granted and use or misuse. I'll put it that way, because we're all here to be used, just not to be misused.
So we definitely are
So
misused, but we were misused when we had the plurality of people as far as demographic groups are concerned. We don't have that anymore.
well, I don't think
I think we'll be in this city in 10 years. We'll be below 20%. We could be the third. We could be the fourth ranking demographic group when you talk about racial demographics shortly. If you start counting Indians and Japanese and Chinese Americans as Asians as one group, we very well could be fourth place by another 5 to 10 years.
well, if we don't recognize what our problem is and do
What's our
something about
problem?
it,
What's our problem?
our problem is that we are so disconnected from each other. We are disconnected as a people from each other. And I saw a couple of comments about related to the Mexican independence thing, where somebody said online that Black folks are done in Chicago. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I think that we have to rebirth ourselves as a people. We have to recommit ourselves as a people to each other. We have to do that in a city. It is, I come from, a small Black community of maybe 5,000 people in Florida, where the population of Blacks in all of Florida is 11 to 12% at best.
Mm-hmm.
To come to what I consider to be this mecca in Chicago of Black folks, when I got to Chicago, but over these past 38 years, to see where we have these large numbers of Black people, that we are so fractionized. We are terribly, terribly fractionized. And there has to be a way. There has to be, but we have to commit to doing it. There has to be a way to break through that.
We're fractionalized economically, certainly, but we're not fractionized politically. I mean, we've had this dance a couple of weeks, but I mean, we vote together. We vote together. We don't vote very smart.
We're not
institutionalized.
We're not institutionalized.
But
that's not what I'm talking about.
We move in one direction when we do vote. Those of us who vote 85% the same way. We've always done that here in this city. Hasn't worked out for us.
But that's to somebody else's. That's to somebody else's lead.
Okay, but economically, that's where our problem is. I mean, we don't buy Black. We don't support each other economically. And we spend a lot of money. We get a lot of money, but we don't spend it among our own people. And in fact, we have allowed other people who don't live in our community, Arab Americans, Korean Americans, to come into our community and to, basically set up shop and take the money right out of the community, take it out to Bridgeview or wherever they live. And that neighborhood thrives, but our neighborhood dies. And that's what has been happening for many, many years. And it takes an entire, I think that is where we really fall flat, because if you go back to the 1980s, when it was really sort of the apex of the Great Migration, when it basically came to full fruition, we had black companies that were hiring hundreds, Mark, black people in their businesses on the south side of Chicago. And we had an economic underpinning. And when that went away, so did we begin going away. And we basically are abandoning the city, and we're leaving the city. But 81,000 black people left Chicago in the last 10 years. 81,000. We're down to like 750,000 people when we had 1.5 million people in this city in the 1980s. How do you get them back? I don't know. I don't know if they're coming back.
Well, I think what we have to do is we have to amass the power. We have the numbers, but we have to amass the power that we can fortify our economic equity and strength, that we will be able to not have somebody else tell us, but then we institutionalize ourselves. I was having a conversation before the show started. One of the areas, I talk about this, what I call a union league of black power, that the one celebration in Chicago where you have a mass number of black folks, about 30,000. I think that would be a fair number. And that is when they do the, what is it called? The house picnic.
What do they call that? The chosen few.
The chosen few out in Jackson Park. I've gone twice. Once worked with Jonathan Swain, and then I just went out there to see 30,000 people coming from everywhere. Can you imagine? I'm just talking 30,000.
Mm-hmm.
If we had 30,000 people institutionalized across the city of Chicago, what strength that would be.
Mm. That would be tremendous strength. I don't know if you'd be able to get that in the city of Chicago, but I know where you can get it. You can get it in the suburbs. You can get the person you're looking for is now living in the south suburbs in Madison, Richton Park, Country Club Hills, Hazelcrest. That's where the black middle class has resettled over these past 20 to 30 years. There's still an opportunity for political power, particularly in Cook County. And if you notice what happens in Cook County electorally in terms of the positions, the elected positions that black folks have in Cook County, but the city, not so much anymore. A lot of what's left in the city are people who are, number one, dependent, and they aren't the kinds of people that will mobilize themselves politically the way I think I'm hearing you say they need to be mobilized. I'm talking the black middle class, the people who work every day, they pay taxes, their goal, their aspiration is to buy homes. They're living in Cook County, in what is the township out south? The big Thornton Township in the south, Proviso Township on the west, Maywood, Broadview, Westchester. These are now predominantly black communities, and that's a big difference than even 30 years ago. And that's where you're going to find the black people you can mobilize to do what you want to do, but they aren't in the city, which means that a lot of institutions in the city are not going to be affected by that black body politic because they don't live there anymore.
Well, I disagree. I believe that we have to be regional in our thinking. We have to be regional. That it has to go not just in one particular place, but it has to cover the city and the suburbs. I believe that we can build that nucleus, and if we can get on that same synthesis, if we can get on that and say, okay, we are going to let's not even talk about any personality. But what we are going to do is we're going to institutionalize our strength, our power. And then when we have institutionalized that, I guarantee you, even once, even those people who are in positions, political positions, are going to start to respect us.
They don't respect us now. That's
They don't.
for sure. You know,
They will start to respect us because they now see that we're moving in a more unified, organized manner.
But let me talk about. I don't want to change. We're on a good subject here, but there was something that happened a few weeks ago, and we weren't here because I think we were off that week, and we weren't able to really talk about it. But it's a major, I think, example, a new example, one that you and I really care about, and I'll get to it in a minute, of how the Democratic Party disrespects Black folks in this region. Do you know that I think it was 3 or 4 weeks ago that the transportation secretary, Pete Buttigieg, he came out to the Gary airport and was talking up. Did you hear about that? Talking up the Gary airport, which isn't going to do anything for anybody because it's all locked in.
Right.
It's too small.
Right.
We talked about the need for an airport in the south suburbs that would be explosive economically for Black people.
Transformational.
But this guy goes to Gary knowing he should know that there's a movement afoot to build a South Suburban airport, and that movement is being shepherded by Black folks. But this guy goes to Gary, and that sends a signal to all the cargo people around the country who would go to the South Suburbs if the airport was ever built. But that sends a signal that the administration is not on board. Why would he do that? It's an insult. And these are people who voted 90% for Joe Biden and for the Democrats. In fact, they kept a Democrat in that very district, a white Democrat who beat a Black Republican woman in Gary for that congressional seat. But Buttigieg goes to the Gary airport. It was, to me, I just said it's par for the course because I know what's going on. But a lot of people, particularly those in towns like Matteson, Richton Park, South Holland, who would really benefit from a third airport in the south suburbs, I don't think they get it.
It is part and parcel that they don't get it because we're not regional thinking people. And unfortunately, when it comes to big ideas, we'll get excited about somebody talking about some garbage cans or talking about a little, grocery stores, which are important. But when you're talking about something as transformational as an airport, when we show the example of what Ross Perot's son did out in
Fort
Worth, Texas, when everybody told him, what are you doing? If you go out there now, 400 5-star companies are all there because of the airport, which they have now infused 68,000 jobs This airport will be transformational not only to the southern region or the southern suburbs, but to the region of Chicago for Black people.
So why do the people that Black people elect, why don't they respect, why don't people like Pete Buttigieg and the Biden administration respect us enough? And why don't the Black politicians have enough self-respect to demand that they respect the huge voter majorities that are run up for the Democrats in Cook County, particularly the Black Democrats, who are basically the bread and butter? I mean, those are the go-to people. Those are the ones that turn the county. When you get that 90% Black vote, because there's a lot of white folks in the suburbs.
Basically turns the state.
Huh?
It basically turns the state.
Hey, my man.
It basically
talk
turns
to
the
me.
state.
Talk.
So
It basically turns the state.
So let me just say, the reason that is because we are misused by everybody. We're misused by everybody because we have not made the reset. We have to reset ourselves to where we make the Black folks who are in office, the white folks who are in office, the Democrats, the Republicans, whatever label that they want to call themselves. Until we do that, until we institutionalize our power and say, we're now calling the shots. You're not going to bring somebody to us and tell us which way we have to move. We're telling you how you have to move, or we're going to move you. We have to get ourselves, let me calm down. We have to get ourselves to that position. If we don't get ourselves into that position, we will have this type of disrespect. Because what Pete Buttigieg did was totally disrespectful.
Totally disrespectful.
Right? Totally disrespectful. That he would come here talking about a Gary airport where we're sending $3 to $5 million a year subsidizing an airport that we get nothing for.
Get nothing from. And the fact of the matter is, if something was going to be done with the Gary airport, it would have been done a long time ago. It ain't going to happen. It's just being used as a political stalking horse or whatever. I don't know what they call it. But
it was being used for daily at one time so that he could kind of solidify.
Right. He could keep the Republicans from taking over O'Hare.
Right.
But listen, I mean, you and I are on the same page, but we deeply disagree on how to go about institutionalizing what we want. I'm of the belief you abandon this Democrat Party and you move to the middle and you do deals with whomever is out there. And you say, hey, we'll do a deal with you, but we want this airport. But you have to put yourself in a position to make that deal. And that means you have to get away from the Democratic Party. I'll call it Democratic Party. I'll give you that much respect because y'all like it to be called Democratic Party.
Well, that's what it is.
It's not Democratic.
That's what it is.
It absolutely is not Democratic.
That's what it is.
It's one party rule.
That's what it's called.
It's one party rule. But
let's not get off.
But anyway, that's a side issue. The fact of the matter is, I believe we got to get away from them in order to cut a deal. We have to use leverage. And you disagree?
I disagree because there's the alternative doesn't work. What I'm saying is we have to abandon being told who we have to support. And let's institutionalize ourselves and we can infiltrate wherever we need to, whether it be Democrats, whether it be independents, whether it be Republicans. Y'all like those labels. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Black people deciding to abandon it all and let's institutionalize ourselves. And then we can determine, we could force at that point. When you get caught up talking about the party, you get distracted from what the mission is. When you get caught up in the party, whether it's the Democrat or the Republican, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about black people that exist here in Chicago and Cook County that have the numbers to be able to turn this state upside down. If we were to just institutionalize ourselves, we could make our schools better. We could make our businesses better. We can make everything better that we want to have better.
Mark, I agree with you,
Okay?
man. I agree with
But-
them. Can I jump in here?
Let me just finish.
Okay,
let me
you
just
get it.
finish. And I'm never going to get off of that is because I know that's why unions are strong, because they're together. My mother said, if you got two teeth in your mouth, they look better together.
You gonna leave it there?
So the point is that's where I'm
Well,
leaving it.
I just think that we got to have. I think when you say institutionalize our political wherewithal, we have to isolate ourselves in the middle. We have to stop kowtowing to the party. We cannot be organizers for the party because the party doesn't care about us, because that's who we support right now. We have to move to the middle and cut a deal with whoever is out there running. And that might be, is it a black political party? I've heard that mentioned many times. Is it a black, it's got to be independent though from the Democrat Party, and it has to be independent from the Republican Party. And we have to be the lever. We have to be the ones who can make the decision one way or the other. And believe me, the Republicans will make a deal with you. They'll make a deal with you if they can get power from it. They'll make a deal with you. But we want something in return. We don't want Pete Buttigieg coming out here talking about the Gary Airport when the momentum is just beginning for a South Suburban airport. I mean, what an insult. Anyway, man. I mean, that.
Listen,
let me give him this number: 708-223-8953. Call the People Show here on IntellectualRadio.com. We're at 708-223-8953. Looking forward to your call.
We can forget about the left, forget about the right, forget about the middle. Black people will come together and we will determine all of that. No, they will cut a deal with us. We will demand, not somebody cut no deal. We're demanding what is.
But they got to know we'll go the other way, or
But
they won't
what
play.
I'm saying is
They won't
are not
follow
going
the-
to play if they don't know that you have a force. No team
Okay.
is a winning
it.
team fractionized.
I got it.
No team.
I got it.
I don't care what
bring
colors
them
they have
together,
on.
but don't bring them together as some adjunct of the Democrat Party. That's my point.
I didn't say
Because you could
look,
make a deal. We could make a deal with.
how many
whoever
times
is
did you
out
hear
there.
me say anything about that? I said bringing black people together.
Well, I mean, you moving closer to where I'm talking about.
I said bringing black people
I
together.
like that in you.
I ain't
like
talking
that
about
in
the
you.
Republicans,
I like that in you.
because the Republicans are not the answer. The answer is within black people.
Absolutely.
That's where the answer is. And if we could just get 50 to 100,000 black people to institutionalize across Chicago and the suburbs, we can determine any election,
I would agree
local,
with you.
state, any election. And guess what?
Absolutely.
It then goes to the federal, because they now know, wait a minute, it's 100,000 people together. They have to come to us. They have to come to us. Whether it's Pritzker, whether it's Brandon, whether it's Pretwinkle, whoever, an alderman, a state representative. Why? Because we have enough votes across all of those aldermanic lines, across all of those state representative lines, state senators lines, to determine their future. That's what I'm talking about.
You know, speaking of future, I'm really looking forward to Mayor Johnson's budget, because the numbers that he puts on paper as a proposal for the next year's budget I mean, will speak volumes about where this city is going to go and whether or not he's going to be able to implement his program. I mean, the news dropped, I guess it was last week, that the deficit that Lori Lightfoot said was only $85 million is now well over nearly $600 million.
$586 million.
Yeah, which is
estimated.
Which is that's 3/4 of what the mayor said during the campaign he needed to raise in order to implement his vision for the city. I mean, he's starting with a hole of 600 million when he's trying to raise 800 million. Quite frankly, I don't know where the money's coming from. I don't know where in the world he's going to get what would amount now to what, 1.4 billion dollars. If you wanted 800, but your deficit's 600, that's a range of 1.4 billion that you've got to somehow come up with. And a 1.3 billion, I don't know where that money's coming from, man.
Well, part of that is where there needs to be a forensic audit of the current budget and a bunch of the waste, fraud, and abuse that exists within these systems. And again, there is so much of that we are paying out to private entities that are making them flush that we really don't know how much of the money, like the whole red light camera, speed camera. Do you realize that that's not even a line budget item in the budget? It just goes into a kitty, into the general fund. There's not a single alderman that could tell you how much of that money that we actually get to the city of Chicago and how much of that money is actually allocated anywhere. Not one alderman can tell you that, because the way that it was set up was that it just goes into the general fund. So what I'm saying is there has to be a forensic audit of how all of this money is going into these private coffers.
But a forensic audit, not unless one is already underway, isn't going to help, because the mayor has to have this budget in the next couple of weeks, at least a proposal for what he's going to do to get it passed before the end of the year.
They're going to put a budget together and it's going to pass because that's the law. They're going to do it.
Well, it's going
right?
to pass, but
They're
what's it going
pass.
to include? What's it going to include? I mean, is it going to include?
I'm more interested in what it's going to include for Black people.
Okay, for Black people, but for it to include anything for Black people, it seems now that he absolutely is not going to be able to get rid of the red light cameras and speed cameras. They need that, what is it, 180 million in the worst way now, because they're in the red.
But the city doesn't get the 185 million.
Well,
that's my point to you.
But it goes somewhere.
Most of it goes to the private company, Xerox.
The 180 million?
Listen, we pay Xerox their last contract was $128 million, not to mention the rental fees and all the other fees that we don't know about that we're getting juiced.
No, but I don't think he's going to, I can't believe that he's going to be able to cut any program that generates any revenue. I'm thinking, man, that the police budget could take a hit. I mean, if he wants to come up with some programs, for instance, the one to send social workers to domestics.
Yeah, like they're doing out in Detroit.
That's going to have to happen. I think the police budget, that kind of money is going to have to come directly out of the police budget. There won't be any new money for a program like that. I can't imagine how there could be. I mean, but he can take money out of the police budget and not property taxes. He vowed no property tax increase. I don't know how he's going to hold to that. I really don't.
Well, the way that here's the way that you hold to it is that the way that Fritz is working to do it, the mayor has got to get on board with Fritz to go down to the General Assembly, for the General Assembly to allow for them to change this disproportion of assessments on homeowners and giving big, rich property owners, like I'm talking about the building owners that has a building that they paid $30 million for and then turned right around and assessed it, valued it at $15 million. That has to change, but they have to change the law to do that. Came in, I don't know, under Mike Madigan. I will have to say Mike Madigan.
Yeah, Madigan, that was his game.
That was his thing. That has to change because the Black community has to stop being the piggy bank, which is you hitting the poorest and getting little to nothing, but always going to the Black community when you need some money. But you don't want to make the rich contribute anything because they're threatening to leave. Get out of Dodge.
They're still threatening to leave too.
Buy.
Well, you can't say just buy.
I can.
I mean, how do you do
buy.
that? I mean, you're gonna say buy,
and
then suddenly all the restaurants and other residential real estate.
The reason why I'm saying that is because they ain't going anywhere. They're not going to Tubuck, Iowa. They're not going. No, they're not.
Indianapolis.
They ain't.
They
no,
can
they're
go
not. They don't have.
Go to Cleveland. I don't know where they can go.
They don't have Gibsons in Indianapolis.
Wherever they can get the best deal.
No, they're not.
They'll go, man. It's business.
They're not going there. They're not going there.
Citadel left.
They're not going. Bye.
Citadel left.
Bye.
Why you say
Ken
bye?
Griffin.
They left.
Bye.
But they left.
He still got his nose back here.
1,000 employees.
He still got his nose back here.
Well, he comes back. I mean,
Yeah.
but he doesn't pay
Okay.
taxes here. He doesn't pay what he used to pay here.
Yeah.
He's selling his expensive real estate here.
Well, he never really paid taxes anyway because
whatever.
they got the cushy deal. That's my point.
If that is a standing threat, it's worked to whatever extent.
That is a big boogeyman. That's
Ron.
like Casper the
It
Friendly
worked
Ghost.
against Laurie. And they're playing the same threat with Brandon, and we'll see. But you don't want to find out. I mean, you don't want to find out if they're serious, quite frankly.
Yeah, I do.
You want to find that out and have them leave?
They're not leaving.
But you said
they're not leaving.
I said you don't want to find that out if they will leave.
They are not leaving because guess what? Somebody else will take their place.
Look, my brother, I know that you're on the high finance, much higher than me. And if you think that you know the dynamic of how these people think, I'm all with you, brother. But I don't know. I'm saying they've made the threat. I only go by what they say and what Ken Griffin did and what this guy Duffy at the Chicago Board Options Exchange or whatever it's Chicago Merc. Is that what it is? I don't know. One of those, he says, you do something crazy, I'm out of here.
Bye. Somebody else will come and take his place.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Really?
Somebody else will come.
You know, New York City. New York City has lost $1 trillion in assets just in the last 3 years.
We cannot have ourselves held hostage to some one person who wants to dictate.
It's more than one, man. It's a lot of them.
Well, look,
it's several of them.
If you and I have to pay, if you and I have to pay our fair share,
you know that they're not going.
Because they're not.
You got an inside information.
I don't have no inside information.
What do you have?
Because I'm just telling you, they're not going anywhere.
But you know,
fundamentally,
you know they're not going.
Absolutely.
You know they're not going.
Yes.
Me, I'm not so sure of that.
Okay. Well,
I'm not so sure.
I'm telling you that these people, just because they have to kick in their fair share, which is not going to change their lifestyle, it's not going to make them have to buy one less home. I mean, this is ridiculous where you have CEOs making 480 to 700 times what their workers are making.
Salary they're working.
The average salary. That's absolutely insane. The UAW, all the UAW is asking at the big three, look, we bailed you out in 2013. We accepted your plea that we will accept less pay while you bail yourselves out. Mm-hmm. They have had record 92% in profits 92%.
No, man, but you know,
14 billion
but-
in the last year.
but there's more to
CEOs.
That story. There's more to that story than just that.
But
And
the bottom line
can
is,
I say
the
something?
bottom line is,
Can I say something?
is that the workers
The
need
workers
to
are getting
be-
screwed.
Yeah,
The workers are
absolutely.
getting screwed. But these new plants that they want to build don't need so many workers. They don't need as many workers, and they're these electric vehicle plants. They're being run by robots, AI.
Yeah, but the big three, there's only, well, it's enough, but it's only 13,000 people that are out now.
Right now.
Right now, there's only 13,000. They don't want any more to go out
Well,
because the small operators are starting to get hit down the street.
Yeah. Now, but you know, the thing is, I think that it's a much bigger issue. And I think a lot of the political rhetoric surrounding climate change and electric vehicles, and we're having government trying to force the market into situations that the market cannot support financially, economically. They can't support that many workers making that much money. They know that because they need work. The workers are going to be the people building the robots.
But that's not what they're
that
talking
build the
about. They're
car.
not
No,
talking about
they're not talking
downsizing
about
workers.
that. They're not talking about that now in this.
They're not talking about
in this
downsizing
negotiation. No, they aren't now. But the fact of the matter is, they will in the future, and they know that, and that's why they won't commit themselves to a 40% pay increase or whatever it is that the workers want, or
No,
pensions.
what the workers
they
are
don't.
saying,
They don't want
the
that.
workers are saying, look, we're asking you to go back to where we were pre
that.
the crash.
that.
We're asking for you to go back to where you asked us to take a haircut. And you have been making these record profits. CEOs making $30 and $40 million bonuses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the deal is, the whole industry is changing, and industries all over the country are changing, and they'll need fewer workers moving forward.
Well,
And I think a lot of this is, we're going to see the downside of a lot of this so-called climate change rhetoric that we've been hearing about in terms of the new technologies that come into play. They're going to displace. No, they're not.
Those are two.
They're going to displace a lot of workers.
Climate
and these
change
companies
is a real issue that needs to be dealt
do
with.
not want to make
people
those
should not be
long-term
sacrificed.
commitments.
People should not be
I agree,
sacrificed.
man, but the
People
fact
should,
of the
workers
matter
should
is,
not be
we've sort of
sacrificed
made a commitment.
when you have people who companies that have not only did they get bailed out by the government, but their employees bailed them out too. And now it's time for them to show some respect to the employees. And you're telling them that you can't do that.
because
You can't repay them.
Man, look, there are no angels, man. What about speaking of electric vehicles? I know that the Pritzker administration announced that they had cut some kind of economic development deal with a Chinese, mainland China, battery manufacturer, which
$2
is something
billion
they wanted.
factory in Kankakee.
Yeah, hasn't come to fruition yet. I've already heard some static coming from people who say that they're into this whole anti-China thing, and you have to think about the experience that Wisconsin had with Foxconn, that was going to develop pretty much a huge swath in southern Wisconsin with a cell phone factory. And apparently it really hasn't happened yet. And it doesn't seem as though there's very much momentum for it, although the state of Wisconsin offered all kinds of concessions and incentives to get the company there. So I think we're really going to have to, wait and see on this one, because there are things happening around the world that could affect whether or not an EV battery plant is actually built. I think it's going to be around Mantino in
Kankakee.
Kankakee County, far
Yes.
south. That could be a boon for that area. I mean, they're talking 4,000
Look,
jobs, man.
Yeah, it's a $2 billion plant that's supposed to be, I think, 1,700 jobs to start with. Listen, we need something like that out on the old U.S. Steel site, which is shovel ready.
Mhm.
600 acres.
What about football team
All right.
down there, man? What about the Bears? Build a
Forget the
stadium in a
Bears.
community.
Forget the
what
Bears.
the Bears want.
No,
Why not?
forget the Bears.
Well, I mean,
That's
they're talking about
not going to transform the South Side of Chicago. We need something that's going to have some long-term jobs where people can start and retire from, take care of their families, take their family on a vacation, send their children to college, where we have some great economic engines. See, those factories fueled jobs that had black businesses lined up from South Shore all the way out to State Street on 87th and 79th and 75th Street, going all the way down. That's the kind of thing that we need. Not, I know you all are, hardcore Chicago Bears fan, and I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. I think you all are 0-2 right now.
Bear down, Chicago Bears.
The Bears are down, aren't they?
Oh man,
Were they?
No,
0-2?
the Bears are like a soap opera, man. It's more than just football. It's a soap opera.
I know it is.
Okay, so
I mean, it's got to be.
But I mean, I'm talking
it's got to
about
be more than winning.
Yeah, but see what they're talking about doing though. In the Bears, what they want to do, they want to build something similar to Wrigleyville, where you would have all kinds of stuff around a stadium that would be multi-purpose.
Interactive.
You could do all kinds of things in there. You could have Beyonce in there, Taylor Swift in there. Yeah, but that was Soldier Field down here. Right. They want to build something new, and they will have restaurants and hotels and all kinds of services around it, and entertainment venue that's centered on where the stadium would be the center for it. But that's the vision. Now, I don't know how the South Shore, this U.S. Steel plant site, would work for something like that. But apparently, the Bears have said, "Hey, we'll look in the city. How about the West Side? There's a lot of stuff on the West Side. You could move out of the way and build something like that, right?" Or
I don't know if they have the land mass on the West Side. The biggest land mass is on the South Side. That 600 acres is the largest land mass, I understand, that's in the state. That's 600 acres.
That would even be as large as what's happening in Arlington.
Yes,
Heights,
larger.
Where they would larger than that. Yes. Where the racetrack used to be.
Yes, it's not. That's not 600 acres.
Man, I mean, hey, that could be. I don't know how you get there. It would be tough getting there.
What do you mean?
To South Shore.
Why would it be tough? Listen, can you the steel plant?
I mean, where the steel plant used to be.
Oh, if you were to have a stadium out there, man, you could have boat trolleys coming from downtown to out there. Let me tell you, when we had,
How about the automobile traffic? How would it get there?
Well, we just have to have a little traffic. We're going to have a little traffic. They did before. They got out there before when they had how many jobs were out there? 15, 20,000 jobs?
Not that many, but there were a lot of jobs.
There was a lot of jobs. All right. So, but
people lived in the neighborhood. They didn't have to drive.
Exactly. Exactly. Most people, black folks that worked in manufacturers, were 15 minutes away from their jobs.
By foot.
15 minutes. Yeah.
Right.
15. They could ride a bike. I have a friend of mine now who works at a factory. He lives in West Pullman. He rides his bike to work because he's 5 minutes away.
You think something like that, there could be something like that again?
Yes.
Man, that's nostalgic.
Yes.
Wonderful.
They're doing it in other places.
60s and 70s, but man.
They're doing it in other places.
Where?
They're starting right now in Arizona. They're doing it.
Arizona?
They're doing it down in South Carolina. They're doing it in North Carolina. They're doing it in Mississippi. They are starting to do this. Yes.
I don't know, man. I don't know. That's they're going to become man. They'd have the black folks would have to drive in from the suburbs because that's where we live these days.
Yeah, well,
We're living in the
they'll
suburbs.
move back.
Huh?
They'll move back.
I don't know, man. I don't
They'll
know.
move back. Every house that I sell is to a black person. Every house that I sell is to a black person in the city.
They're not in the suburbs.
Yeah, in the city.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's great, man. That's great. I mean, I have, man. You know, more black people have moved into my building in the last 5 years than you would ever suspect. And
Well,
I'm
listen.
living right downtown, man. It's black folks. Black folks are not going to disappear from the city.
No, that's
Absolutely
but see,
not.
that's where
Absolutely not.
we have
But
to
we
not
just
allow
not-
for that narrative.
But we're not going to be the king makers and the queen makers
We can
the way
be.
we have. No,
We can be.
not with 10-15% of the population. Not if it gets to that. We're not going to be that.
Well,
the Latino, the
we-
Mexican American community, when they go downtown and they have Mexican Independence Day downtown in the Loop, they're sending a message. Their message is, hey, we are here. And as soon as we have the right to vote, we are going to own this. This is ours. They're making that statement clearly. I'm sure everybody gets that.
Well, let me say this: black folks, we are here. You have the right to vote. We need to institutionalize ourselves. We need to institutionalize ourselves.
Get away from that Democrat Party and become independent. Get away from that Democrat Party and go independent.
See,
Tell
I'm
the
not-
Democrats, hey, if you don't do right, I'm going to go over there and vote for that person. There might be a Green Party candidate, might be I don't know, any kind of candidate, a Republican even. But you can't keep voting and doing the same thing over and over again and getting these kinds of results. What do they call that? The definition of insanity.
No, you can't keep voting the same methodology. You can't keep using the same methodology. We can force Democrats and Republicans to do what we want to do when they see that we're organized. When they see that we're organized, they know, both of them know that we are not organized, and they are deathly afraid for us to organize the way that we can amass power. I know that there are some people who are, apathetic, and some are discouraged, but don't get discouraged. What we have to do is we have got to band ourselves together, institutionalize the way that we have never been. We have never been there. We've done it a couple of times, but that's not institutionalized. When you institutionalize something, that means that they're coming to you. They're respecting you. You're starting to see them do. You would never have a Pete Buttigieg to come when we just passed the bill and we're getting ready to do a luncheon. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. We're getting ready to do a luncheon out in the south suburbs with this black woman who is as brilliant of an aviation intellectual as anybody. She's well respected around the country about the South Suburban Airport. I've sent it to Brandon. I'm sending it to any of the elected officials saying, you need to be there because we have to start having a more regional outlook as opposed to a little pocket. We have to have a regional outlook. That airport will transform not only, again, the south suburbs, it's going to impact Chicago. Can you imagine what Chicago would be like, or even the suburbs would be like if we didn't have O'Hare? Can you imagine?
It'd be a cow town.
Well, they were
Be Kansas
against
City, man.
They were against Daley. They didn't want Daley to do the airport, but Daley said, "Hey, I'm going to do it."
Yeah, we'd be in Milwaukee if we didn't get if O'Hare wasn't here.
Do you know how many people actually work at the airport? Just at the airport.
What you mean, O'Hare?
Yes,
Let me guess, 75,000.
not that many.
Not that many.
There are 42,000 jobs,
Okay.
but as a result of that, around O'Hare, there's more than 300,000 jobs as a result of O'Hare Airport.
Damn. So I guess it's 4 times as many as I said.
I'm not, no.
No, I thought you meant how many people worked in and around O'Hare.
No, at O'Hare,
At
there's
O'Hare.
42,000 jobs.
That's including the people on the planes and
yeah. In and
food
around
service
that, as a result of that, there's 300,000. Okay. That airport out there, mind you, the reason why that location is because, number one, you don't have the restricted airspace that even Rockford can't expand because of the restricted airspace. They can't expand. All of the major interchanges for cargo is
right.
10 minutes away.
It's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. And when your boy Mayor Pete came out here, I mean, it insulted
the black community.
Black community's intelligence.
Yes.
I hate, man, that's the one thing I hate more than anything is when somebody takes me for a sucker, takes me for a simp. I cannot handle that.
Well, listen,
that is the thing that
we need to, we have to deal with that. We do have to deal with that because I was incensed when I heard the report that he was coming here and going to Gary. And then before that, I got incensed and I started looking for Juliana Stratton when Pritzker went all the way to Rockford to do this big press conference out there. And here we are 30 plus years to do this airport out here. Why? Because it's going to transform the lives of a whole lot of black folks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the thing is, see, this is what they do. What they do is they come up with these symbolic issues, they call them, and they what they do, they make it a race issue. They make the issue race, and they get us worked up. And we say they're on our side because they talk up race all the time. You're racist. You're racist. They're racist. Racism, all that. They talk that game, and we fall for it. When we shouldn't care about that, we should be caring about, as you say, the potential for 300,000 jobs that would benefit the communities in which we live. That's the stuff that counts, not this stuff about racism and white supremacy. I don't care about that. There's no white person out there supreme. To me, my only supreme is the Lord above. I have a white person supreme, white supremacy. That's what Joe talks about. That's what Kamala talks about. And they get us to vote for them emotionally. We take that stuff and we forget about Pete Buttigieg coming into town insulting us. He's the racist. He's the white supremacist. He is. Joe is. Because they insult us constantly with this race baiting crap. That's what they do. We have more in common with farmers in downstate Illinois than we have with these elitist Democrats. More in common with downstate farmers in those small towns. They're dealing with the same problems we have. Their schools are falling apart. They're hooked on drugs. They have no jobs in their communities. They've been abandoned. We got the same problems. We need to form a coalition with the good old boys down the way.
No, we need to form a coalition with ourselves.
Well, but no, we need to look
with ourselves.
Well, for sure at the beginning, but we need to look for commonality with people who have the same issues.
Guess what? That commonality, let me tell you something. Because you got now, which has always been a mystery to me, how poor, desperate white folks vote against their interests. Always been baffling to me. But my focus is I'm not anti-white folks, Spanish folks, Chinese folks, anybody. I just am pro-black people. And I want for black people to recognize, one, we have the strength, but our strengths are being misused because we haven't taken control of our power. That's where we have to get to. But before we go on,
wait till I get to respond. Let me respond.
Go ahead.
I'll respond, man, that the Democrat Party has been doing to poor black people and poor white people the same thing for 150 years. They keep us divided. They keep us divided so that they can manipulate. They can maintain the power. They did it in the South, man. They did it in the South during Jim Crow. That's what they did. They divided poor blacks and poor whites. We were at it. They made the whites think they were superior to us. And so there was a constant problem. This is their strategy. It hasn't changed. They've been doing it for 150 years. Okay. And now they favor the black. They say, oh, black. White supremacy is your problem. They're keeping us divided. Well, that's what they do. And it's the only thing that will save this country is if we recognize that we poor white people, black people, even middle-class white people and middle-class black people, we share the same problem. I don't pay any different money for gasoline as a white person does, but it's a problem. It's our problem. How do we deal with this?
You can get you some gas now, $3.99.
$3.99. I saw that.
You can get you
I saw it up at the corner, $3.99. Yeah. It's down from $4.29. Yeah. We'll see, but the price of oil, a barrel of oil is now $91.
Yeah, well,
that's a problem.
You got people playing games with that.
Absolutely.
But let me just say, because we're gonna get to that, back to that, because I really don't want us to be distracted from that, because this, to me, is the key to our liberating ourselves from all of these. These people are scared to death that we organize ourselves and recognize and realize our power. Scared to death of it. I remember when I first called the first meeting and started the whole thing, I thought it was funny about the red light camera thing. People were like, this man is crazy. These people gonna kill him. There were literally people coming up to me, man, you got any security? Security for what? Man, you don't know these people. These people are something. I said, well, shouldn't those people be just as afraid of us? Because I think they are. I really think that they're more afraid of us than what we even understand. I really do. So if we were to institutionalize ourselves just a little bit, those people would be scared to listen. They would be picking up the phone. Can we have a meeting with you all? Inviting us to listen. And that's fine, but we're not going to ask for anything. We're going to make demands that we expect for this, and this to be done by this time. If it is not, we will have to say to you, we'll see you later. And you know why we can say that? Because we have the numbers to make that happen. When you have the numbers to say to a person in political office, we have the power to change your political future, to send you back to the private sector. No way in the world they now can continue to disrespect us. I'm not looking for anybody to like me. I got enough people who like me. My wife loves me. I got enough people to like me. I'm looking for them to do what they need to do for our communities. Our institutions need to thrive and can thrive. Other institutions are thriving. I had a conversation with, there used to be 14 black moving companies in Chicago. You know how many there are now? 4 little tiny teenagers. And they all around begging for
Is
crumbs.
Medley still out there?
Medley's still out there, but he's selling. He's getting her because Medley is 94 years old.
Got to be old. Maybe
Right?
what that?
And his son is older than that. Yeah, his son is selling. Medley is 94 years old, right? And his son is they're selling to some other moving company that's not black. That's coming to where a black moving company was, the largest black moving company in Illinois was. But that's all because those people know that we are not in the position that we ought to be in as an organized group of people who make the demands. We don't ask for anything. We dictate. But we're not organized to do that. And as long as we stay focused on anything else other than that, we will continue to have these same conversations, election after election after election.
I don't know. I sense certainly dissatisfaction with what's going on. Huh?
That's been for a long time.
I know, but I sense it deepening now. And you can see it certainly when you have this exodus of black people from the city of Chicago to the suburbs. That is, I mean, that's showing something right there, that the political structure, power structure here has less to depend on than it had before, because people are leaving. They're voting with their feet. First and foremost, they're getting out with their feet. First and foremost, they're getting out of here. Now, it's benefited, I think, in Cook County. You know, Cook County is fine because black people who are moving to the suburbs still get to vote for county board president, still get to vote for state's attorney. And you see those jobs, those elected positions still fairly fortified. But what's happening in the city?
Black folks are still on the south and west side.
They're still on the southwest side, but not as many. But not as many.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
Mark, look,
you got to come
hang
out.
Track.
You got to come and hang out with me sometime.
Mark, you
black folks are still on the south and west side.
I don't work with anecdotes. I work with what the Census Bureau, the United States Census, tells me is happening in certain neighborhoods in the city. And there are fewer black people. I'm not disagreeing with that. Here now.
I'm not disagreeing with that.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not disagreeing with that. But the reason that is because of the things that we're talking about. Like, here it is, they're complaining about black people moving out. Well, you're not doing anything that attract black people to stay.
True that, but did you expect them to do that?
I expect for them to continue doing what they're doing as long as we are being as disjointed as we are. They are going to continue to manipulate us if we don't recognize where our failure is. This is about us right now. I'm not talking about them. We can deal with them, but we got to get us together.
I agree with that, man. I agree with that, man, on any number of levels. We have to get ourselves together, no doubt, no doubt. Hey, man, let me ask you something, man. Just a general question, and I'm going to go national here. Mm-hmm. Do you think Kamala's ready?
Yes.
Okay, why?
I think, look, she was an attorney general in California.
Yeah.
She was a United States senator. She's now a vice president. I think she's a bright, brilliant woman. If she had to step up to the plate, I think that she would be ready to take the helm. I think she certainly would be ready to take the helm.
The reason I asked the question is, I saw the president in, I think it was in Vietnam, or whatever, and a couple of other occasions, he just doesn't seem to have it, man. I think on one occasion he actually said, "I want to go to sleep." I think he said.
Well, there's some occasions that I want to go to sleep. I'm tired.
I know, but man,
At the end of the day.
he's the president of the United States.
Well, the president can
he
can get sleepy too. You know,
yeah, I get
there's
that,
nothing wrong
but
with that.
I just don't think he's man. He just doesn't inspire much confidence. You, I think you even do we have a bet that he could make it until 19
to the end of his second term?
8
to the end of his second term?
Yeah, you think he could do that?
Yes.
You think he could make it
Yes.
to the end of his second term?
Yes.
In his condition?
Yes.
Man, I don't. I really don't.
Okay.
I and the thing about it is that I don't even know if he's going to make it.
Well, if he can't,
through the campaign.
But if he can't, your first question
is she ready?
Kamala Harris is ready. She's ready.
They do these approval ratings. Listen. They do these approval ratings. I know CNN did an approval rating. I think it was last week, and it said he had 39% approval rating, and hers was in the low 30s.
Barack Obama had a lower one.
Really?
This time doing
his second term, his first term, or second term,
first term.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't pay any attention to that.
I do.
I look at the results.
I have to pay attention
to that
because I look at him, and I know he's 80 years old, and sometimes he flashes into that to the point where you just have to wonder, is this guy okay? Because he is old. He's the oldest president there's ever been.
Yes.
He's 80 years old.
Yeah.
And I think that there's some question. That's why I ask about Kamala, because I don't think that she's ready. I don't think she's ready at all.
Why?
Well, because what has she done? What has she accomplished?
I just told you.
She was given this job to do something about the border. So she's going to be the border czar or whatever it is. And that is probably one of the most glaring failures of the Biden administration. The fact that we've got people sleeping in police stations and on the street in New York City and just coming over the border, without any control whatsoever. And this is supposed to be her responsibility, and I don't think here.
No,
and then
that's not accurate.
Then from a pure looking at the situation, I don't think she can win. I don't think she can beat a Republican candidate, even if it's Trump, in 2024. If she had to step up,
well, she's not going to have to.
Huh?
She's not going to have to because Biden will be the nominee. Biden is going to run for a second term.
You do this clairvoyant thing, man, and you come up with
a clairvoyant thing. I'm just telling you what it is.
I mean, you don't know that. Yeah. I don't know that. I don't know any of that.
You just don't believe it. I believe it.
I don't have any confidence in it. That's for sure.
I do.
But I don't. I'm just not going to say I believe it. I'm trying to be reasonable about it. I'm just not going to say, well,
I'm not sure that you're trying to be reasonable, but okay.
Be reasonable.
Okay.
I'm absolutely being reasonable. Okay. The man is 80 years old and he says he wants to go to sleep and he can barely stand up. He falls down. I know about getting a little bit older. I know what happens.
You've fallen down a couple times?
I've fallen down a couple times. Okay. Yes. It happens.
Yeah.
It happens. And I'm saying the man is older, and can he withstand the stress of that office? In fact, he's
proven that he's certainly proven it.
He's proven it how?
I don't have any problems with someone who is old. I don't have this ageism thing.
Well, I don't know if it's ageism. I think you look at the guy.
I don't have this ageism thing. I don't have that problem.
It's not ageism. Please don't call me an ageist, because I want to make sure that the person leading the country is.
If Joe Biden was 50, you wouldn't be for him. So
politically, maybe
you wouldn't be for him.
I think the problem.
So I don't think that is
the problem here is that he has some problems.
What
with his age, man? I mean,
what's the problem with his age? What's the problem with his age?
Staying alert. He's gone to sleep in public settings.
When I look at what he has presided over and what he's been able to get done, where we have a strong economy.
We have a strong economy. Okay, tell me.
Growth,
I want you to go.
Wages
Tell me about the strong economy. Really? Wages are up so that
Oh,
this gas down the street doesn't bother you. It's not high to you. It's high to me.
Oh yeah, but
It's high.
that's got nothing to do with the president.
Well,
That's
it
got nothing
has something to do with
that.
this
Has to do with the
administration.
Saudis. No, it doesn't. It has to do with the Saudis and the Russians manipulating oil.
Do you think
prices.
they're going to do that
what
for the
they
next
have.
year or so?
They always do it.
Do you think they're going to do it?
Always do
They
that.
did. You think they did it? Did they do that to Barack?
They
Did
always,
they do that to
absolutely
Trump?
they did it.
They did that?
Absolutely they did it.
But they're doing it to Biden, but the prices are continuing to
They
go
they
up,
always
up,
do
up,
it when
up.
they're
How
trying
about
to
interest
influence
rates, man? Is
who
that good
they
for the
want to.
economy? The interest
Well,
rates?
listen, I think that interest rates are going to have to come down. They're going to drop.
Mhm.
I think they're going to drop
They're-
next year. I think we're going to see a drop in the interest
You
rates.
think they're going to drop?
I think
Okay,
so.
Good.
Yeah, I think. I think
Well,
we'll
you know,
see a drop in
I
interest
would like to see that happen because right now, man, it has driven up the price of virtually everything. Man, but what about so you think those CNN polls are faulty that say that he has a 39% approval rating?
Listen,
In
that's
last 15
that's
months or 13 months before the election.
Depends on who they talk to. It's a snapshot in time.
Mhm.
I just don't pay a lot of attention because Barack Obama was at 33%
Mhm.
this time in his first
Mhm.
term.
He turned it around, man. I remember that.
Okay, all right. Biden will do the same thing.
Mhm.
It is going to be an election in 2024. It's going to be an election about a choice. That's what this is going to be about. He certainly has.
It usually
a record.
is.
He certainly has a record to be able to
Really?
to tout. But in 2024,
Man, that's
in
great, man, that you
2024,
feel
the
that,
electorate-
that the economy is doing great and America's
Not that
doing
I feel
great
it, the
and people are
numbers are there.
buying houses and cars and refrigerators
yeah, they are.
and all that.
They
Yeah,
are.
man.
They are. Wages
And
are up.
The money's
Wages
good.
are up. People are able to
The
compete
dollar is
for,
worth as
for,
much
for
as it
higher
was
wages.
3 years ago. Man.
So
And people are
Yeah.
getting those wages.
you know
and
what? That's
everything.
why they came out with a report that that they would, because wages are up, people are earning more. More money has been paid into Social Security. It's like a $2.7 trillion surplus,
Mhm.
right? So
So we got a surplus.
yes, $2.7 trillion in
Of
Social
what?
Security.
We have a $2.7 trillion.
Yes.
So I shouldn't worry about.
No.
We shouldn't worry about Social Security
No.
not being there.
No.
For
As long
whomever.
as
They've been
these,
saying that for decades.
yeah,
I mean, that
as long
Biden
as-
has turned that
as long
around.
as-
He's turned that around because this
No,
has been a
I
problem
think-
for years.
no, well, what
For decades,
what was
man.
what was a
There've
problem?
been, people have been warning about Social Security
What was
running
a
out.
problem?
man.
What was a problem? Yeah, what was a problem is they fixed what they had people paying into Social Security. Like postal workers were paying into Social Security 75 years beyond the time that they were actually going to be alive. They fixed that nonsense. So
I'm good.
you're very good.
I'm good on
Yeah,
Social
yeah,
Security.
you don't have to
man.
worry
You
about
know
it.
this.
Yeah,
You
don't
know
have to worry
this.
about this.
You know a lot
Yeah.
of stuff. See,
Well, I
always ask you,
believe
man.
I believe the facts. I
Mhm.
don't believe the fodder. I
But
just look at the
but
facts.
you know,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah, I know.
Okay,
Trust me, Charles. Your Social Security, you're good.
I'm good.
You're good. Don't have to worry about it. Okay.
I'm good.
You can go back
I'm good.
downtown when you go home.
Hey man,
you
look.
know,
I
and-
want good
and
news. I
drive
want
into
nothing
your
but good
your
news.
parking garage. Don't
Yeah.
worry. Your Social Security is okay.
Good, my man.
You're not
my
gonna have a
man.
problem.
Thanks to
Okay.
Joe. Joe got this under control. The feds and all the people in Washington, they've done a great job of managing Social Security to the point.
Well, Social
where we
Security
have-
funds its own self.
Mhm.
It funds it. It's not. First of all, it's not even a part of the deficit because it's illegal for it to
Okay,
be a part of
okay.
it. Okay, it has nothing
Well,
to do with
that's
it.
cool. I
This
mean,
is all
love
that is a
good
bunch
news,
of
man.
fodder
I love good news.
that they want to. Some groups want to take Social Security over so that they
Mhm.
can take control of all that money,
Mhm.
but it's not. So you're okay.
I'm good.
You're okay. Your Social Security is okay.
I'm good.
That
You
fund
good?
is
You hear
good.
that? Mark told us. He told us that all this stuff. He's
man.
clairvoyant.
Listen, you're a
My
journalist.
brothers-
You're
yeah.
a journalist.
Yeah,
right?
I'm just
Oh, wait a minute.
asking.
You're a
man.
journalist. You're
Yes.
a professional
Yes, sir.
journalist.
Yes, sir.
I'm not.
Well,
You're a professional journalist.
yeah.
You can get the
That's
same
why I ask
information,
questions.
but you can get the same information.
Well, it depends on where you go online,
Right.
man. You
No,
got to give
no,
me
no,
some
no.
of your sources.
You can get
I
the
don't
same
know, man.
information.
Look,
yeah,
I
you
ask
can.
a question. I ask a question. Social Security is good. You say it's good.
It's
Let's
real
get
good.
off that because it's good.
It's good.
I'm going to have that check coming whenever. But
Yeah.
but we were talking
And you'll
earlier
get an
about
increase.
Kamala.
Yeah.
And you think she's ready? I'm not so sure of that. I'm not so
Okay.
sure. So what about Gavin Newsom? Why is he hanging around like that?
Gavin Newsom is doing what Gavin Newsom should do because he's a governor of California, and Gavin Newsom is saying, look, as Democrats, he's saying, look, we've got all these great accomplishments done over the last 2.5 years, or the last 3 years. We don't need to be playing like we're on defense. We need to be out there talking those things that we have done so that the country knows what has been done. That's what Gavin Newsom is doing. So why shouldn't he be doing that? He's a Democrat.
Well, he's got a $30 billion deficit in his
He's
state,
a Democrat,
and he's got a horrific homeless problem.
So
and
we have
people are moving out of his state. It seems like he has
we have a horrific homeless problem around the country.
True that. But Gavin has the worst. And Gavin,
he's a much bigger state.
Yeah, I know, but he has the worst problem.
How many people are in?
And the weather.
What is it? 30? How many
homeless people? I get all that.
Okay,
but he has a lot.
How many people are there in California? What's
40,
the population?
I think it used to be 40 million, but a lot of people are leaving because
so,
they don't like the high taxes and the crime and other issues that are affecting Californians. So they're leaving.
Yeah, that's always the go-to. That's always the go-to.
They're leaving
for the opposing
they're
side.
Leaving. But they're leaving.
Say that.
They're good. I mean, why are you leaving California?
But people are going there too.
Wants to leave California?
They're leaving, and people are going there too.
No, they're leaving. They're having
the
net loss of people in California. That's a fact, man. I mean, maybe there are a lot of the people that are leaving are people that are fairly well off. I mean, they have a lot of money and they're moving to places like
people
Tennessee,
who are well off. People who are well off
moving to Florida,
have that privilege.
Moving to Texas.
People who are well off,
man. I looked at a
working class people.
I looked at a Zillow thing for Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah,
man, all the money that's coming out of New York, California, and Illinois is flooding into Nashville, and to buy a 1,500 square foot house is costing $900,000 for a little 2-bedroom condo, because all of this money is coming out of New York, Illinois, California, moving to Tennessee, of all places. Have you been there recently?
No,
I haven't. My wife went there, and she says
I've been to Tennessee.
She says it's like
many
they got
years.
Millionaires and billionaires that are setting up camp. These are people that are moving from New York, Illinois, California, and using the money that they bring with them, the equity in the homes they sold, and putting it in the homes in Tennessee, where they've made Nashville basically untouchable.
Well, fewer people, certainly working class people are not moving, and they're not taking the job offers. Yes, they can.
They can.
No, that's
How
not
can
true. That's not
man?
true. Because there are people who have bought homes in the last 10 years where you were able to get, because of the crash, and then of course the pandemic, and trying to keep the markets stable, people were able to buy more homes because they were able to get these artificially low interest rates that were at 3%, some a little less than 3%. So people bought more home all around the country, so their jobs are offering them increases in salaries and asking them if they want to move, and these people are turning it down because they're like, no, I'm good where I am. My life is good where I am. My mortgage is at 3%. I don't want to sell my house.
But not in New York.
I don't want to sell
Illinois,
my house
and California.
I don't want to sell my house and have to go somewhere else, even though you're paying me more, but then I have to go and buy less of a home because I have to pay more for it now, which is more into the realistic rates of where we typically would be at 6%. So they're saying no. So corporations are having that kind of challenge because people don't want to move.
I would agree, because they don't want to go facing 7-8% interest rate, which
Not
is
7-8%.
it is 7% for a house these days,
It's not
man.
7%.
Oh, Mark, look at
It's
this.
6
Mark.
point. Listen, I sell homes.
Oh, 6 point what?
Okay,
6 point what?
you can get a mortgage at 6.38% today.
With great credit.
No, you don't have to have great credit. You
With
have to
good
you have to
credit.
qualify. Yes,
730,
Yes.
750, thereabouts.
you can get an FHA with
Well,
a
ain't nobody
620
getting no FHA.
credit.
I don't doubt that many people getting FHAs these days, man.
Yes, they
FHA
are.
loans
What are you talking about? Most people who buy homes use
in the
FHA.
city. In the city, man. People in the suburbs aren't using that, man. They're getting conventional.
No, that's not
conventional
true.
mortgages.
That's
man.
not true.
Man,
That's
I
not true.
have bought a lot of houses.
When's the
in my
last time
life.
you bought a house?
Oh man, I bought a house.
When's the last time you got?
3 years ago, I bought a house, man.
Okay, so you were able to
You
get
know,
a you were able to get a conventional. Most people use FHA because they have a lower down payment. Conventional now have to compete with FHA.
No, the suburbs
because-
are not using FHA, man. They're not.
Yes, they are.
In the suburbs.
Yes.
Man? What suburbs you talking about? You talking about the North Shore? You
No,
talking about
I'm not.
the western suburbs,
Listen,
man? Those are
I'm
conventional
talking
loans.
about-
People put 20% down, they get the house. They got the money, man.
People
They're not,
who are you're talking about jumbo mortgages.
yeah.
People, I'm not talking about jumbo. I'm talking about the average home purchaser that's paying $350,000 to $400,000 for a house. Many of those people use FHA loans to get homes.
But anyway,
Right.
the rate is at least twice what it was just 3 years ago. It's twice what it was. You will agree with that.
Yeah.
Right? More than twice, really.
Well, because what it
'Cause
was
they're
3 years
allowed
ago was an artificially low
Whatever.
interest rate.
But whatever. But people bought houses then.
And
at
those people
rates.
and those people
But
were
those
able to buy
people
more of a
today-
house.
But those people,
are,
man, people aren't buying houses. Man, the housing market is trash
no, it's not.
right now.
No, it's not.
Mark,
No, it's
the
not.
housing market
Now you're
is
going
not
to
doing.
you're going to tell me
I'm gonna tell
somebody
you.
who is
I'm
who
gonna
does
tell you,
who is in
Mark,
that business
Mark,
every day.
people are not out buying
Yes, they are.
houses at 6.3%.
Yes, they are. We still have a housing
At
shortage.
the way they were buying houses at 3
We still have a
rate.
housing shortage.
Come on, man.
We
That's
still
supply
have
and
a
demand.
we still have a
That's
sh-
basic economics.
we still have a housing shortage. We
Of
still
course you
a
have a
housing shortage.
for certain
So people
parts
are
of the
still
market.
buying houses.
Yeah, for certain
Yeah,
parts
people
of the
buying-
market.
Listen,
you have a shot.
my
That's why
buddy
you got
put his
people
my
living
buddy
outside
just
of the
my buddy
freeway.
put his house on the market on a Saturday and had 3 or 4 multiple bids on it before the next week. So trust me when I tell you that homes are still selling, people are still buying homes. That is not true that people are not buying homes. They are still buying homes.
I'm trying to get mortgage rates right now.
Are you trying to find?
Man, 30-year fixed, 8.074%. 15-year fixed at 7.146%. Huh? It's tough out there, man. This is Bidenomics, man. This Bidenomics. I don't know, man. You got it like that. I don't. Bidenomics is tough, man. It's a tough one.
Got
Tough
what
one.
like what?
Got
Got what like what?
it like that,
Huh?
man. If you think the economy is doing fine, then
Oh yeah,
Go for it.
It is.
go for
we have a
it.
strong
I
economy.
hear differently.
We have a strong
I
economy.
read what
Yeah,
people
we
say
have a strong
about it,
economy.
and they say they're having a real tough time, particularly at the gas pump and in the supermarket.
Yeah, well,
That's where they're having the
well,
problem.
at
and-
the gas pump. Yeah, because you have people like the Russians and the Saudis that are manipulating gas prices.
And?
Absolutely.
You don't think they're going to do that?
Uh,
Do you think that's a matter of foreign policy or what?
No, no.
You don't think that's
it's
foreign
not
policy involved
It's not
in
a
that?
matter of foreign.
Well, the
policy.
Saudis, man, are now.
They don't like the foreign policies.
the
They don't like the
Saudi
foreign
Mhm.
policies when you have a dictator and a murderous person like Putin.
You believe
who
that?
wants? That's
Well,
what
I
it
mean,
is.
hey, man,
that's what I know.
That's what they say on the. You know about
yeah,
that.
that's what I
You
know.
been over there? You talked to
that's
him?
what I know.
You talked to him?
All right, that's what I know.
Where did you find that out? You know that?
Yeah, that's what I know.
I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know the guy. I mean, I know that. I know
don't
what
need.
he
I don't.
what he
you,
does.
You
I
want
know
to?
what
You want to go
these
visit him?
speeches he gives.
You want to go visit him?
Visit him? I
Yeah.
love America, man. I'm
No.
a big
You
American
want to go visit
man.
him?
I don't want to leave America.
Oh, you don't.
I don't.
So you don't
No,
go
no,
vacation
not right
anywhere
now.
else?
No, I have, but I don't want to leave right now.
Okay.
I love America, man.
When do you want to go
It's
see him?
great. Huh?
When do you want to go see him?
Why do I want to go see him?
I don't know.
I didn't say I wanted to go see him. I didn't say I wanted to go see him. I thought maybe you knew that he was this horrific dictator.
No, he
but
is.
Apparently, he's doing this business with the Saudis, with the Chinese, with the Iranians, with the Africans. Man, the African countries are big in Russia now.
Yeah.
And what's up with, so I don't know what they think about him and what we think about him.
Well, who is
in
they?
Mainstream people in the BRICS countries, in Brazil, in China, in Iran.
If they thought so highly of
India,
him, and he
in
thought
India,
so highly
they're
of
still
them,
doing business
if they
with
thought
him.
So highly of
Why
him,
are they doing that?
Well,
why?
Because it's more complicated because he is a murderous person.
Okay, but
he is a murderous person. Right?
Okay.
He is a murderous person.
Okay. I mean, I don't know the guy,
yeah.
but they're still doing business with him, and those are facts. Those are facts.
What is that supposed to mean?
It means
what is that supposed to mean?
The United States is in a heck of a pickle right now.
No, because
Mark, let me finish,
United States
man.
Is not in a pickle.
Mark, let me finish. Because if these people gang up and raise oil prices in order to get back at the United States, which is supplying weapons to kill Russians, then we could end up spending $5 a gallon for gasoline. Because of this guy.
You know what the country. You know what I'd like
maybe we shouldn't be messing with the guy.
What I would like to see
if he has that much control over gasoline prices.
Let me tell you
That's all I'm saying.
Because
he's not going to take over the United States. He's not.
Well,
he'll get nuked if he tried that.
What he wants to do, and what the European allies all have said is that they have to make sure make sure that which is true to stop this guy from going further, trying to start World War III. You want World War III?
No, you're
wait. Do you want World War III?
You're down with those European allies?
Are you good with World War III?
No, not at all. And I think that's what we're doing. We're provoking World War III.
No, we're preventing
by having a proxy war
preventing
in Ukraine.
We're helping to prevent, man. We're helping to prevent, not provoke.
Really, man, they got you. They got you. They got you,
man. Who is they?
The propagandists.
No, the propagandists don't have me.
They got you, man.
No, I look at information.
If you really think this is
the
for
propagandists
the military,
got you, not me.
The military industrial complex is making money off this war. Look, that's what's happening, man.
Yeah.
You don't believe that?
You want to get distracted and talk about that.
Brother.
Of course they're making money because you have to provide you have to provide material. So of course they're making money.
They're making money, man. Big money.
You have to prevent a guy like
you got to go there and you got to get those people to sit down and talk and stop the shooting. You got to do that. That's what Trump wants to do. That's what Vivek Ramaswamy wants to do. The hawks are on the Democrat side. There's a lot of them on the Republican side too. But the president is in this madness. This old, decrepit, can't put together a sentence guy is fooling around with a nuclear power, with a nuclear armed adversary.
Yeah, well,
who can put the lights out just like that.
Well, if he could put the lights out just like that, he has them. We have them too.
But exactly,
we have them too.
But the lights are going to go out for everybody.
The man is afraid of getting the cold. The man is afraid of getting the cold.
I don't know anything about. I didn't even know a Ukrainian before all this started. Man, I would have to look for Ukraine on the map. And most people don't even know where it's on the map. And here we are sending these people billions of dollars and giving people in Hawaii $700 when their house burned down.
We should continue to support and send,
it ain't so, Joe.
Send money to Ukraine to help them stop this guy.
And they're getting slaughtered.
No, they're not. Well,
they're getting slaughtered.
They both have lost.
Graveyards are everywhere.
They both have lost.
They've lost. The Ukrainians have lost a lot more because they're not as large a country.
Putin is losing more. He's now having to turn to his jail cells. He's now having to turn to his jail cells to try to manage.
And now
he's going to North Korea for substandard equipment because he's so desperate. He's so desperate. And I know, Charles, I know you have this visceral disdain for Joe Biden and you want to go along with the extremists of the propaganda.
What extremists?
Of
extremists?
Of suggesting.
Man, I'm just telling you the truth, man. Who's making money? Follow the dollars and you will find out who's
I'm
making
not-
money
I'm
and
not
who's
worried about.
behind
I'm not worried
this
about who's.
Ukraine
I'm
war.
not worried about
It's
who's
Raytheon. It's
Putin
Boeing,
is behind the Ukraine
it's
war.
all of these General
Did-
Dynamics.
Did
it's these
Raytheon
companies
invade?
that make
Wait a minute. Did those companies invade
man?
Ukraine?
That war has been going on for 10 years.
I'm asking you a
It was
question,
going on
Charles.
for 10
I'm
years.
asking you a question.
Yeah, they love it.
Oh, wait a
They
minute.
love the
So
war.
you're saying that these companies invaded Ukraine?
These companies
Is that what you're saying?
are behind the diplomatic machinations that end up
Putin?
with war,
Of Putin?
not only there, but
Of
in
Putin?
Afghanistan,
Charles,
in Africa.
you're
These
losing your
guys
credibility,
make
man.
Money.
You're losing your
No,
credibility.
I'm not.
Charles.
I'm gaining my credibility.
you're not.
I think
You're losing
people
your
have got to
credibility.
understand that
You're losing
this,
your credibility.
this is ridiculous, man.
No.
To be to having a
I think that people
showdown
understand
with a nuclear armed
that-
country.
I think
Two
that,
nuclear armed countries that close to having a full out war. That's a problem.
the United
man.
States is not at
That's
war
a
with
problem.
Russia.
People said Trump was going. I know they aren't, but they're
Okay,
killing
all right.
Russians with their weapons. People said Trump was going to
No, they're
blow
defending.
up the world.
They're,
and
they're
guess who's
helping.
doing
They're
it?
helping Ukraine
Guess
to
who's doing
defend
it?
itself.
Joe
And we have to
Biden
make sure that
is
Ukraine
at the
is
helm,
successful,
and we
so
have
that
this kind
he
of
cannot
situation.
go into Poland and then continue to go
Connect
further.
the dots, my
for-
brother.
I want you to
Connect
connect the
the
dots.
dots.
I think you need to connect the
Connect
dots. I got the dots connected.
Who do you think is making money? And don't you know
I'm
that
not even
war
worried about
is
who's making
always
money.
about money? It's about money, man. The military-industrial
Well, of course,
complex
of
is
course,
making money.
money
The
is a
Congress
factor.
people are getting money from these companies to keep it going. They'll vote for whatever they need because it's just laundering money. I think it was Mitch McConnell who even admitted it. He said, don't worry about spending because the money always comes back to American defense contractors. What? You mean you're laundering money, Mitch? Is that what you guys are doing? That's exactly what they're doing. And you're falling for it. I remember back in the day, man, I would go
Falling
to
for
the
what?
band list,
Falling for
for
what?
the okie doke.
Yeah,
I remember I used to
I
go
think-
back and be in the park.
I think
Give
you-
peace a chance.
you,
That was me
Trump,
back in 1969 and
Trump.
70. And guess what? All of my liberal friends are now pro-war. I
Are
can't
you-
believe it.
Are you?
It makes my mind explode. My liberal friends, the people I was out there in Peace Park with, are now they want
Who's pro-war? Who's pro-war?
Joe Biden is pro-war.
You said your liberal
Joe
friends.
War is.
Who-
well, I'm
who-
not going to
who-
give you names of
who's
my liberal
pro-war?
friends here.
Who
They
is
support-
pro-war?
They are hardcore Democrats who will back the president because they hate Donald Trump. That's who they are, and they've lost
You
all
got to be
reason.
kidding me.
They've
gotta
lost
be
all
kidding me.
reason. They got to talk this one out, man. Stop the killing. They got to do that.
Yeah.
They
Well,
got to stop killing.
they
It's the most existential threat
they are,
on this
and
planet
they'll
today.
continue- they're
Not climate
continuing-
change.
They're
Not
they're
climate
continuing
change.
to push him
It's
back.
the war
Push
that
him
is
back
an
to where he
existential
is.
threat.
Yeah. Well,
How we doing, Earl?
yeah.
We got
They-
5
they
minutes.
Continue to push him back where he needs to be, and he will eventually.
And he's going to give up Crimea
He will-
and the
he will
land that he's
eventually.
already taken. And they had this great offensive, the Ukrainians,
they
and apparently
let
they
me tell
haven't
you
gone
something.
anywhere.
Let me
with
tell you
this, man.
something. Let me tell you something.
They're fighting one of the nuclear.
You're talking about you're
heavily
talking
armed
about a
countries in the
guy that
world.
they continue to push back. This is a guy who thought that he was going to have this over in a matter of days.
Whatever.
In a matter of days.
Now it's going to be a couple of years.
In a matter of days.
Okay. Now
Right.
it's a
He's
couple of years.
losing.
Man, look,
He's losing.
I tell you, man, I hope that I hope this doesn't become the nuclear conflagration
It won't.
that it could become.
It won't.
I pray.
It won't.
I pray for that.
It won't.
But right now, I think American foreign policy needs to rethink this whole situation. They need to sit down, mediate this, in the shooting and the killing. They got to do that, and I think that can be done. And the way
you know how it can be done?
I tell you how it can.
You know how it can be done?
I do. I know how it
Yeah,
can be
Putin
done.
can go back
You
to.
got to stop. You got to stop sending weapons over there.
Yeah, no,
You got to stop
No,
sending
you gotta-
weapons over
you
there.
got to
That's
keep
what it
supporting
is.
Ukraine. Keep supporting Ukraine.
Go for it,
so
my
that
brother.
Ukraine can continue to deal with Putin.
Oh,
Yes.
say, can you see? Yeah, man, keep going, man.
So let
Fight 'em
me
out.
just talk about this because I thought this was a great celebration.
Man, I'm an alpha.
This
I've
is
been
a
an
great
alpha
celebration.
till the day I die, man.
I
I don't want to hear about no
didn't
Cubans,
pledge.
man.
I didn't pledge. I
you
didn't
don't
pledge
want to. You don't have
because
to pledge.
I thought that the whole pledging thing when I was in college was just absolutely ridiculous.
Well, I didn't think that because I pledged.
Well, let me just finish.
No, I don't want to hear that, man. You insulted me. You said ridiculous.
Okay,
you said I did something ridiculous.
It was ridiculous.
I didn't do anything ridiculous.
Did you get hazed?
I pledged.
Did you get hazed?
There was some hazing involved.
Okay.
Yes, I'm going to say
did you have to walk around with collars on your neck like a dog?
I don't want to be your man.
Yeah, okay.
I don't want to be a Kappa Alpha.
Well, you never invited me to your dinners. So
Sigma, and I'll tell you.
But I like
reason
the fact that what they did was they said that they ended, and I forget how long ago, they ended this whole thing with the branding and all that ridiculous hazing and treating people like slaves to come into an organization that's supposed to be doing and does do, great works. So that was the only reason that I didn't pledge. That was the only reason I didn't pledge, because I was like, wait a minute, you're not going to abuse me and treat me like a slave, like slaves were treated in order to get into your program.
Well, they didn't treat me like a slave.
Look,
there was some hazing involved. But
if you want me to run, to exercise, to do some, that kind of training.
Martin Luther King was an alpha brother. Thurgood Marshall was an alpha brother.
Okay, what did you?
I can go on and on with the great black men who were alpha brothers who went through this. They did that ridiculous thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it.
Well, you wouldn't.
I wouldn't do it.
We wouldn't have you anyway, because you couldn't. We wouldn't have you.
I wouldn't want to be
because you
with
didn't want it. You didn't want it. You're not
good enough to have me to treat me like a slave.
That's on you. That's on you,
black folks.
But I'm saying that
allowing
Alpha Phi Alpha
from an education.
One of the things that I did in my life that I'm glad that I did it.
What did you do?
What did I do?
Yeah,
I accomplished, man. I did things in my life.
What did you do to become an alpha?
I had to learn a lot about the fraternity, about service.
No, I ain't talking about
I had to learn.
I ain't talking about that.
What do you mean you're talking about? That's what I did. To be initiated?
Yeah.
That's what I had to do.
No.
I had to learn in our dear APHIA fraternal spirit.
Did they whip you?
Oh, no. Now they hit me with a paddle a couple of times. Yeah, they did. And they did some other stuff. They made you eat a raw onion, stuff like that. Yeah, I mean,
the same things they made slaves do.
They made slaves.
You all.
Well, man,
educated
it wasn't
folks
for you
doing this ridiculous
It
stuff.
wasn't for you.
That was pitiful.
It wasn't for you.
Absolutely.
And that's why we wouldn't want you in the frat. That's all. But that's cool. No. Man, there's a lot of brothers, man, that are not in the frat that are my friends.
Yeah. Do they still do that?
Say most of the brothers
do they still do that
I know that
do they still do
are
that?
Not alphas.
Do they still do that?
We as older brothers, we don't condone that. We tell these young chapters, don't do that. Y'all become
They
wiser. Do it. It's like they did it.
Y'all become wiser.
Hey, we're out of here. Thank you for listening once again to this wonderful people show. My name is Charles Thomas. This is Mark Wallace, my good friend. And
we'll see you
next week. We're going to do this again. We're going to do this again. Thank you, Mark, for being the good brother you are, man. I love you, man.